All right, in 2016, remember then candidate Trump, he promised to reshape the U.S. Supreme Court. He wanted to put on people that were originalists, constitutionalists, those people as judges, not people that legislate from the bench. Well, tonight, President Trump has resoundingly fulfilled yet another campaign promise. Judge Brett Kavanaugh has now officially been sworn in as the newest member of the U.S. Supreme Court, a lifetime appointment, making him now the second judge successfully sent to this bench by the president. And tonight, during his swearing-in ceremony, the president, he congratulated Judge Kavanaugh. He also apologized for the horrific nomination process that we all witnessed for almost 3 straight weeks. Take a look.
On behalf of our nation, I want to apologize to Brett and the entire Kavanaugh family for the terrible pain and suffering you have been forced to endure. Those who step forward to serve our country deserve a fair and dignified evaluation, not a campaign of political and personal destruction based on lies and deception. What happened to the Kavanaugh family violates every notion of fairness, decency, and due process. Our country, a man or a woman, must always be presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty.
Presumption of innocence. It is core to who we are. Judge Brett Kavanaugh had this to say about his historic nomination. Let's take a look at that.
Article 3 of the Constitution provides that the judicial power shall be vested in one Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is an institution of law. It is not a partisan or political institution. The justices do not sit on opposite sides of an aisle. We do not caucus in separate rooms. The Supreme Court is a team of 9, and I will always be a team player on the team of 9. I was not appointed to serve one party or one interest, but to serve one nation. America's Constitution and laws protect every person of every belief and every background. Every litigant in the Supreme Court can be assured that I will listen to their arguments with respect and an open mind.
Now, in the face of one of the most despicable, disgusting political hit jobs ever in our history, well, Judge Brett Kavanaugh just made history. Now, from the very beginning, the day that Justice Kennedy announced his retirement, right here on this program, I warned you all of this would happen. Now, tonight we begin, thanks to all of you. This is now the beginning of my 23rd consecutive year right here on the Fox News channel. And over the course of that period, we have chronicled all of this for you. It is the Democratic playbook. We get this all the time. Robert Bork, Clarence Thomas, and now they did it to Justice Kavanaugh and his 2 young girls and his wife and his family. What this is about power. The left will stop at nothing when it comes to blocking a nomination or winning an election. Elected Democrats openly even accusing Kavanaugh of gang rape and drugging teenage girls on a regular, almost weekend basis, calling him evil, comparing him to Bill Cosby, and so much more. And with zero corroborating evidence, 0 corroborating witnesses, and it was based on, nearly 4 decades old claims, and most of them had holes and inconsistencies all over the place. Now, this kind of guilt by accusation was parroted by the so-called news media in this country, including the late-night so-called comedian and comedy shows with the far-left holier-than-thou hosts like Stephen Colbert. Over the weekend, we had a writer for Colbert's late-night show actually tweeting this: "Whatever happens, I'm just glad we ruined Brett Kavanaugh's life." Just for a second, stand back. Think how ugly and despicable, disgusting that is. Well, she later apologized, and she's being sarcastic. Nothing funny. That tweet sums up pretty much what we have witnessed now for far too many elections, far too many confirmations in this country. And unfortunately, it's all they're offering you, the American people, in 29 days. The politics of personal destruction, their motivations, it's clear, it's obvious, it's transparent. They want to regain power, and they do it, try to make conservatives as evil as you possibly can. And as you can imagine, well, they're taking the Kavanaugh. They're not taking the Kavanaugh confirmation tonight very well. Gee, this is a shocker. Take a look.
This is the institutionalization of tribalism on the court.
Women who are shrieking out in agony, saying, you cannot impose this on us. You can't send us back to the 50s. But Mitch McConnell says, yes, I can.
This is a president who says he's for law and order, but not when it comes to sexual assault. That's quite clear.
I think this is, in many ways, a crushing defeat for women and women's rights.
Trump has delivered for these people on the things that they care about most. He has delivered racism for these people. He has delivered misogyny for these people. And now he's delivered the Supreme Court for these people. We're going to see if this reign that they now have control over all three branches of government, we're going to see if this reign lasts for 30 days or 2 years or 1,000-year Reich.
Now, after Senator Susan Collins issued a historic address and bravely cast what was the deciding vote sending Judge Kavanaugh to the bench, well, recently, Senator Collins, her staff, get this, receiving rape threats, death threats, other derogatory calls. An op-ed in the New York Times entitled, "White Women, Come Get Your People," slamming Collins and any woman that thought different than they did and supported Kavanaugh, calling them, quote, gender traitors. Over at NBC News, an op-ed led with the headline, quote, Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation is the ultimate affirmation of the patriarchy and Republican women let it happen. Next there is known anti-Semite, anti-Sharia law or Sharia law advocate Linda Sarsour. Really? She's helping organize the Women's March and actually introduced Senator Kirsten Gillibrand in New York at an anti-Kavanaugh protest, a woman that tweeted out, quote, that Senator Collins is, quote, a disgrace and her legacy will be that she was a traitor to women and marginalized communities. History will not treat her kindly. Cancel Kavanaugh, hashtag. As you can see, devoid of any new ideas to help improve our country, make us more secure, more prosperous. Look at what Democrats do. They divide Americans. This is what identity politics is. Every 2 years, every 4 years, you watch elections. What do liberals do? What does the Democratic Party do? They call Republicans and conservatives racist, sexist, misogynistic, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic. They want dirty air and water. Republicans want to take your grandma in a wheelchair and throw them over a cliff, and they want to kill children. It's nothing new. This is their playbook. Don't take my word for it. We have been chronicling a history of slander, character assassination, character bludgeoning by the left for now, as we begin our 23rd year, for decades on this program. Take a look.
Many Republicans talk in coded racial language about takers and losers. They demonize President Obama and encourage the ugliest impulses of the paranoid fringe.
If you accept the support of Klan sympathizers before you are president, you will accept their support after you're president.
He's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
It's wrong what the leader of the Republican Party and this Congress are doing in blocking an accurate census because they don't want to count everyone that they don't think they can count on.
They are in favor of affirmative action if you can dunk the basketball or sink a three-point shot. But they're not in favor of it if you merely have the potential to be a leader in your community and bring people together. Don't tell me we've got a colorblind society.
June 7, 1998, in Texas, my father was killed. He was beaten, chained, and then dragged 3 miles to his death, all because he was black. So when Governor George W. Bush refused to support hate crimes legislation, it was like my father was killed all over again.
When you don't vote, you let another church explode. When you don't vote, you allow another cross to burn.
And then you got their plan, which is let's have dirtier air, dirtier water, less people with health insurance.
See, we don't just make this stuff up. This is what they say every 2 and 4 years. Tonight, Well, the stakes could not be any higher, because in 29 days, if we, the American people, reward this party for these despicable, disgusting tactics, we all know what's going to happen. Now, I have warned you over and over again, they don't have a plan, the Democratic Party, to make your life better, about the forgotten men and women of this country. Clearly, they are destroy Trump every minute, every second, every hour of every day. They want impeachment, open borders, get rid of ICE. They want to keep Obamacare. How's that working? And remember the tax cuts that have now created 4 million jobs, got 4 million Americans off of food stamps? They want their crumbs back. But again, don't take Hannity's word for it. Listen for yourself. They are telling you what they want to do in 29 days if we are stupid enough to give them back power. Take a look.
Sooner the better. They say, Maxine, please don't say impeachment anymore. And when they say that, I say impeachment, 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 impeachment.
In terms of the bonus that corporate America received versus the crumbs that they are giving to workers to kind of put the schmooze on, is so pathetic.
They should, once and for all, work with us to improve the Affordable Care Act and renounce repeal once and for all as well.
We've got to critically re-examine ICE and its role and the way that it is being administered and the work it is doing, and we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
We should protect families that need our help, and that is not what ICE is doing today, and that's why I believe you should get rid of it, start over, reimagine it.
29 days to go until the most important midterms in our country's history. The fate of the country is resting in your hands. We ultimately have the power. So let's set the stage. First, it's so important to remember the party that controls the presidency has gained seats in the House of Representatives only 3 times in the last 100 years. Last time was in 2002 after 9/11. The stakes have never been this high. So will you, the American people, reward these despicable, disgusting political tactics from a party that has no plan to make your life better? Or will you ask yourself, this simple question: is America better off than we were 2 years ago? Is the country better off? Is America stronger? Is America safer? Is the economy doing better? Is the president keeping promises that he made to you, the American people? Look at your screen. Now, the answer to those questions, you'll never see this on any other show. Well, look at the answers right there. Overwhelming success. The unemployment rate in this country dropped to its lowest level in nearly 50 years. 1969, the Mets won the World Series. It's now at 3.7%. Hispanic unemployment in America, all-time low. We're seeing historic unemployment lows for African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, women in the workforce, youth unemployment. We have record low unemployment now in 14 states out of our 50 states. Manufacturing confidence at an all-time high. By the way, 400,000 new manufacturing jobs brought back to America, jobs Obama said were never coming back. Consumer confidence, all-time high. 4 million fewer people tonight on food stamps than 2 years ago. 8 million people out of poverty. That's happened in 2 years. $3+ trillion spent on securing our borders and building the wall. That's underway. The president kept his promise on NAFTA. He pulled us out of the catastrophic Iranian deal. And don't forget about the historic progress that's going on now. We haven't seen a missile from Little Rocket Man since December of last year. It was like a missile a day being fired by Little Rocket Man. President now making progress. We might be able to have denuclearization of the entire peninsula, in the Korean peninsula. We have new pipelines that have been opened up. That's American jobs. That's American energy sector now booming in this country. ANWR is now open. Coal miners' jobs have been saved in West Virginia. 2 originalists on the U.S. Supreme Court confirmed. We now have promises made, promises kept. 2 years. President Trump has kept his promise. And again, his agenda is reshaping the country for the better. But tonight, that agenda, 29 days from now, is in jeopardy. Our booming economy in jeopardy. Look closely. If you live in one of those House districts that you see in yellow on your screen, look closely, because those districts are the ones that will decide whether or not Nancy Pelosi will become the next Speaker of the House. Because Pelosi, well, she's already measuring the drapes and planning on what? Endless investigation after investigation, even into the newly appointed Supreme Court Justice, Justice Kavanaugh, sore loser. On top of all the other investigations the House is planning to go after President Trump, 2 years nonstop. They're on a quest. They've been telegraphing it. They want to impeach this president. And all they want is a majority from you to fulfill their seedy dreams. And meanwhile, if you live in one of these states, you're going to decide the future of the United States Senate. By the way, look how close the vote was this weekend. You live in North Dakota, Senator Heidi Heitkamp, well, she gave in to the Democratic mob. She voted against Judge Kavanaugh. And so, too, did Joe Donnelly in Indiana. And so, too, did Bill Nelson in Florida. And so, too, did all of these Democrats, with the exception of one, Joe Manchin of West Virginia. There are no more moderates left in the Democratic Party. There's no diversity of opinion anymore. The Democratic Party has evolved into a party of the radical far left, and they're not thinking about how to help the American people with jobs and security. It's a party that has proven in the last 3 weeks that they have a disdain even for our U.S. Constitution, which should be nonpartisan, which we all love, and basic principles which should unite us, not divide us. Due process, the presumption of innocence. They've now become the party of smears, lies, slander, besmirchment, and bludgeoning. The party of identity politics. Now in 29 days, every American in every corner of this great country, you've got to rise up and send a message. Democrats, their brand of ruthless politics, you cannot reward people for what they do every 2 and 4 years, what they've done the last 3 weeks. If you don't get to the polls and vote, core principles that we all hold dearly are at stake. This is the most important midterm election in our lifetime.
Well, government workers, students, and probably about a total of 10 private sector employees enjoyed the day off today. It's Columbus Day. But people are increasingly not grateful to Christopher Columbus for giving them the day off. Noted fake Native American activist Elizabeth Warren says today should be Indigenous People Day in honor of the ancestors she doesn't have. And more cities across the United States are renaming the holiday that. Most notably, Columbus, Ohio is ditching Columbus Day and celebrating Veterans Day instead. James Robbins is the author of Erasing America, Losing Our Future by Destroying Our Past. It's a brilliant book based on a brilliant and true concept. He joins us tonight. James, thanks a lot for coming on. So this is part of a larger trend that you write about in some detail in your book, which I hope our viewers read. Tell us what that trend is.
Tucker, well, the trend is to assault the American narrative, to make us all feel ashamed to be Americans, to look at every aspect of the American story and say, you know, the founders were bad, the Constitution is racist. And what better place to start than with Christopher Columbus, who is really patient zero of the European invasion of America.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's clearly the thread that ties all these stories together, trying to delegitimize the country we live in. But what's the point of that? Why would they want to do that?
Well, I think the point of it is if we feel bad about our country, if we feel bad about the past, then they can rewrite any kind of future they want. I mean, the progressives want to turn the United States into a socialist country. Well, in order to do that, if you say that, you know, the founders were all evil men and an evil document and everything in the past was bad, well, then they can come up with a future that fits whatever they want to make it.
So they're really telling the rest of us, you don't have the right to defend yourself against our assaults. You don't have the moral legitimacy to defend your own country.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's all about shame. It's all about blame. You know, the assault on Columbus. And by the way, as a Buckeye, I'm really sad about Columbus, Ohio, kind of ditching the holiday. I think they should change the name of the city if that's what they're thinking. But
yeah, no, I agree with that, to Indigenous City. How's that?
Or Virtueville, something like that.
So are you seeing this? Not, as obviously it's been going on in academia for quite some time, but it seems to have spread to, again, normal places like Columbus, Ohio, which is a great town, actually, filled with normal people. How did it get to Columbus?
Well, I think it's been insinuated into the American education system for decades. I mean, starting in the 1970s, we've had this creep of revisionism in American history books until it kind of becomes the accepted narrative. I mean, particularly with Columbus, he starts off, chapter 1 in Howard Zinn's revisionist history of America. So people have grown up saying, oh, Columbus, yeah, he's a bad guy.
That's unbelievable. It's a great book, and your explanation of it was crisp and super helpful. I appreciate your coming on. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.
Michael Avenatti is a beast.
Okay, that's true.
And
he's a beast.
He's a beast, and he keeps popping Donald Trump and all of his folks in the mouth. John Meacham says he may be the savior of the republic.
He really is a master of the media cycle. I owe Michael Avenatti an apology. For the last couple of weeks, I've been saying, enough already, Michael. I've seen you everywhere. What do you have left to say? I was wrong, brother. You have a lot to say. The Democrats could learn something for you.
The savior of the republic. Who gives these people TV shows? For months, as you know, the press could not get enough of the world's creepiest porn lawyer. Hundreds of fawning media appearances propelled him to become a leading Democratic candidate for the presidency, which is where he is right now. But in the last 2 weeks, and entirely by accident, the creepy porn lawyer reminded the public about why evidence and the presumption of innocence still matter in the country and may have saved Brett Kavanaugh in the process. So now his former benefactors are mad, and they're turning on him.
Some of your Democratic colleagues have been saying that the Democrats, your fellow Democrats' case against Justice Kavanaugh was weakened by Michael Avenatti.
Michael Avenatti is probably the best thing to happen to Brett Kavanaugh, isn't it? I mean, all these Democrats that have been flirting with him, they've got to really be embarrassed.
A lot of Democrats are saying, and are you hearing this, that Avenatti took what was a sympathetic case with Ford and turned it into a circus, losing them the high ground. Are you hearing?
The Michael Avenatti circus comes to town.
Avenatti came in with the sweat neck allegations of druggy gang rape stuff that seems to have been much less taken as credible. Avenatti did a huge favor to the Trump White House.
They're concerned that he might be hurting their beloved political party. David Brown is an attorney. He's director of the Brunswick Group. He's a former advisor to Senator Patty Murray, and he joins us. David, thank you a lot for coming on. So does it turn out that Stormy Daniels, his former lawyer, is not, in the end, the savior of the Republic, as MSNBC dubbed him?
Well, I think it gives Michael Avenatti a little too much credit to say that he really was the deciding factor in this. I think we know that now Justice Kavanaugh was confirmed because of a process that the Republicans ran, and they were single-minded and determined in ensuring his nomination, no matter the very serious and credible allegations that were raised against him.
Would you? But they weren't. And I think you're right. I'm not sure that he was decisive in this. They weren't the only single-minded, determined parties, though, I would say, in this debate. The Democrats were those things, too. And would you describe the allegation of his client that she attended 10 consecutive gang rapes, didn't report any of this to police or tell any of her friends or relatives, and that Judge Kavanaugh was present at some of these, drugging the punch? Oh, but wait, she says later, he wasn't. Is that a credible allegation, do you think?
What strikes me about the allegation, and I believe she swore under penalty of perjury, in her declaration. So, I think as a lawyer that says something to me. But it was striking to me that Senator Collins
but she contradicted it in a later interview.
Yeah. So my takeaway from that, when Senator Collins said, I think it was October 2nd, Tucker, that she wanted that allegation to be included in the scope of the FBI investigation, to me that would have been the right way forward, allowing for the FBI to fairly impartially assess the credibility of her allegations by building a fact pattern or record.
How would they go about doing
that?
Since she, as you said, already gave her declaration under oath, she named no other person present other than people who already under oath denied that she was telling the truth. There was literally nobody to interview except her, and she was making claims that were so stupid that even Democratic senators were blush. I mean, there weren't 10 gang rapes in a row in Chevy Chase and no one heard about it. I mean, that's just not true. And everyone knew it. So why wouldn't Democrats say to creepy porn lawyer, come on now, this is not helpful?
I mean, I think you did see some members give far greater credence to Dr. Blasey Ford's testimony. I mean, if anything, the focus on Dr. Ford's testimony was very powerful, in part because she did come forward and she did testify, and members had an opportunity to ask her questions. But, look, the broader takeaway for me here is that, unfortunately, the FBI investigation was not comprehensive. In fact, Justice Kavanaugh and Dr. Blasey Ford weren't even interviewed as part of that investigation. So I think it was a missed opportunity for us to clear up a lot of the questions.
Are you saying,
but
I just want to understand, okay, so but I just want to understand what you're saying. Are you saying that because creepy porn lawyer's client, the one who claimed the 10 consecutive public gang rapes that didn't happen, and you know it as well as I, the fact that she wasn't interviewed by the FBI means that he shouldn't have been confirmed? Are you really saying that?
I just want to make sure you're referring to Mr. Avenatti when you're using that term. I don't watch your show. So
I'm not fully familiar. Right, the lawyer who represented Stormy Daniels, who's now a leading presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, the savior of the republic. In the words of a best-selling author.
Well, let's get to that because I'm not sure he's a leading candidate. I was curious when I heard you say that.
Well, I mean, he's visiting. He's been invited by Democrats in Iowa, New Hampshire, and other early primary states. But let me just say, are you saying that because his client, the 10 gang rape in a row client, she wasn't interviewed about her ludicrous claims that somehow Kavanaugh shouldn't have been confirmed? Is that what you're saying?
And that's not what I said. I wish that she had been interviewed, and I wish that the FBI could have probed her story and then offered a more complete record. That's what I'm saying. I think that we have a missed opportunity here because there are very serious questions that are still outstanding because the FBI investigation was not allowed to be as complete and holistic as I think many members, certainly Democratic members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, you saw their statement, wish that it had been, and I suspect several Republicans
if you could just quickly bottom line it for me, just about the creepy porn lawyer, the CPL component of this. Would you say you're happy to have him in your party and he should keep doing what he's doing because that's what Democrats stand for, or maybe he should go back to doing whatever it is he does?
I mean, we're a Big Tent party. I'm happy for anyone who's stepping forward and standing up for what they believe in. But look, it's going to be a really crowded primary field in 2020. So I am not foolish enough to offer any kind of forecast as to who's going to be the nominee in 2020.
Yeah. Well, I'm rooting for him. Well, look, I'm not even a Democrat, but I just want to tell you, I'm foursquare on his side.
I'm sure
David,
he'll be very happy to hear that.
I know you will be. Thank you.
I thank the members of the United States Senate, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, for his leadership and steady resolve. I thank Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley for his wisdom and fairness. And I give special gratitude to Senators Rob Portman, Susan Collins, Joe Manchin, John Kyle, and Lindsey Graham. They are a credit to the country and the Senate. I'll be forever grateful to each of them and to all the senators who carefully considered my nomination.
That was the new Associate Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh, thanking members of the Senate, including my next guest, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator Graham, I said this to you last week, and I'll say it again tonight. I don't think this would have happened without you. The moment where it was just organic for you was extraordinarily powerful in as much as it was righteous indignation at that moment. And the other thing I'd like to say, I don't think it would have happened. I watched the speech of Susan Collins, and I said this Friday night on this show. I think it was the best Senate speech I've ever seen. Yes. Methodically laying out the case with no influence outside from anybody, under enormous pressure. And I've heard every horrible thing said about this woman. And I'm thinking, where is their sense of decency and dignity if you lay out an intelligent case, but you just happen to disagree?
Well, it's about outcomes for our friends on the left. There's nothing they won't do to maintain power. There's nothing they won't do to take it back when they lose it. Susan Collins represented the best in the country. She thought about what she did. She explained what she did, and she made a reasoned decision. The people on the other side were going to destroy Kavanaugh if we let them, to the extent that my intervention helped a good man who was being railroaded and humiliated. I'm pleased. And to President Trump, thank you for sticking by Brett. To Brett, thank you for having the courage to stay in there when a lot of people are quit. I'm forever grateful to both Brett Kavanaugh and President Trump.
What I see now in people, a level of energy and enthusiasm and just raw, we're not going to put up with this, that I think is ignited around the country. I don't know the impact it'll have on the country in 29 days, but considering that we see every 2-4 years and every confirmation these tactics, we can't reward this behavior because we'll just get a lot more of it.
I think that's what Susan was understanding, is that if she legitimized this process, God help the next person to be nominated for the Supreme Court. If we legitimize this process, the rule of law gave way to the mob rule. The Hirano standard is horrific. What was insulting is the way that the senator from Hawaii took everything we hold near and dear.
By the way,
and threw it
Senator,
over
you shouldn't be saying that.
like
You should
Kavanaugh,
shut up and
didn't
sit
like
down,
Trump.
she said. She said men should shut up and sit down. Shut up, Senator, and sit down.
The only thing
that goes for me, too.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And it's probably right half the time. But the people of South Carolina gave me my voice, not the senator from Hawaii. And I chose to use it in a fashion that I thought, I think what a lot of people were thinking. And Senator Collins gave the best explanation why a reasonable person would vote for Judge Kavanaugh. And we're going to take this to the ballot box. 29 days from now, you got a decision to make, America. Do you want to live in the world of Senator Hirano, where you're guilty until proven innocent because you're a Republican, you don't have a presumption of innocence? Or do you want to live in the Susan Collins world, where you'll actually be heard, listened to, and evaluated?
You know, Senator, I've been in this game. I'm now starting my 23rd year at Fox tonight, and 30 years on radio. I've been pretty lucky. I've been waiting any minute for it all to come crashing down like everyone else. But I will say this:
you're good to go. You're good to go.
When you look at the progress we've made as a country, I haven't heard one idea from the other side that will improve the lives of the people that matter most. The people in South Carolina and the people in the rest of this country that are seeing the economy boom, our security get beefed up in ways we never imagined just 2 short years ago.
Well, there's 2 issues in this election. Everything else has kind of gone by the wayside. Are you okay with what they did to Kavanaugh? Is this the America you want to pass on to your children? We want women to be heard and respected. Dr. Ford was heard. She was respectfully treated. But we also want a constitutional process that protects all of us, not just Republicans, not Democrats, but all of us. And here's the other question on the ballot. What do you have to lose? Well, I tell you what, if we lose, you got a lot to lose. You're going to have a smaller military. You're going to have a bigger government. You're going to have less money in your pocket. If they win, you're going to have a bunch of people who are organized around the idea of hating Trump. So I would say there's a lot to lose if you turn over power to my Democratic colleagues. There's a lot to lose in this election, and I hope you understand that.
All right, Senator Lindsey Graham, I don't know if this would have happened without you. You did your constituency in South Carolina. You served them well. You served the country well. We are forever in your gratitude for that. Thank you, sir.
I would like to begin tonight's proceeding differently than perhaps any other event of such magnitude. On behalf of our nation, I want to apologize to Brett and the entire Kavanaugh family for the terrible pain and suffering you have been forced to endure. Those who step forward to serve our country deserve a fair and dignified evaluation, not a campaign of political and personal destruction based on lies and deception. What happened to the Kavanaugh family violates every notion of fairness, decency, and due process. Our country, a man or a woman, must always be presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. And with that, I must state that you, sir, under historic scrutiny, were proven innocent. Thank you. Margaret and Liza, your father is a great man. He is a man of decency, character, kindness, and courage, who has devoted his life to serving his fellow citizens. And now, from the bench of our nation's highest court, your father will defend the eternal rights and freedoms of all Americans. You know that. We are joined tonight by a leader who has never wavered in his support and devotion to the rule of law and to Brett Kavanaugh's elevation He's worked very, very hard, and he truly has done just an incredible and wonderful job for the American people. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Thank you, Mitch. Please stand up. I think that's the biggest hand he's ever received. They just don't get it, Mitch. You're great. Thank you. Very much appreciated. I'd like to thank another man whose principled leadership has earned widespread admiration, Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Chuck Grassley. Thank you, Chuck. We are grateful to all of the senators on the Judiciary Committee who fought so hard for this confirmation. Senators Lindsey Graham, John Cornyn, Orrin Hatch, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, Ben Sasse, Jeff Flake, Mike Crapo, Tom Tillis, and John Kennedy. And thank you also to Rob Portman, sitting right here. Thank you, Rob Portman. And finally, we are indebted to Senator Susan Collins for her brave and eloquent speech and her declaration that when passions are most inflamed, fairness is most in jeopardy. How true, how true. Brett Kavanaugh is a man of outstanding intellect, a brilliant scholar, and his credentials are unsurpassed. A graduate of both Yale College and Yale Law School, he has taught at Harvard, Yale, and Georgetown. When he's not working or with his family, he's giving back to his community. He spent 26 years in public service, and just like Justice Gorsuch, he clerked for Justice Kennedy. For the last 12 years, Brett was a judge on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, widely regarded as our nation's second highest court. During his tenure, he authored over 300 opinions distinguished by their masterful and impartial reasoning. Known as a judge's judge, he is a fair-minded, unbiased, and even-handed person. He understands that justice must be divorced from the passions of the day, tethered instead to the enduring foundation of our republic, the Constitution. Justice Kavanaugh fills the place left by Anthony Kennedy. Soon, Justice Kennedy will administer the judicial oath to Brett Kavanaugh, just as he did last year for Justice Gorsuch. This will be the first time a Supreme Court justice has ever sworn in a former clerk to take his seat. A beautiful moment which reminds us that freedom is a tradition passed down from generation to generation.